After visiting Smurf in 2024, we just had to come back. We type and chat and watch in this community, but we don't often get the chance to talk face to face. This is just the highlight of the year for me, because the community is here to support the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation by showcasing and sharing incredible, wacky, or just lovely creations with one another. And at the risk of being sappy, it kinda does feel like coming home. This is Smurf 2026 in all its glory. It's a longer than average video, chaps, so check the timestamps, and we'll see you up ahead. First on my list was to see James Bruton and his amazing one-ball bike. I'm gonna be honest here, guys, I had to bury my urge to make innuendos throughout all of this.
Hello, my name is James Bruton and we're at Smurf, and I've got my one-ball bike. So I've previously made a two-ball bike which had two balls instead of wheels, and it balanced sideways and it was omnidirectional. But now we've got one ball because I already had a ball and I've done two balls, so it seemed like the next logical step to try. And of course I have to make things that people will click on. So no one's ever done, I haven't found anyone riding on one ball before, no one's ever done it as far as I can tell. So there we go, basically make things people can click on that look unusual.
How long did it take actually to design and make this?
I started designing this around Christmas time, which was mainly the thing I had to work out was the Omni wheels to make them strong enough to support me. The ones I used in the two-ball bike were just off-the-shelf ones. They have brass bushings and steel axles, and the little wheels spin so fast that the wheels got hot, and then the rubber went all soft and it lost traction. So these are 3D printed in Polymaker TPU90, but they have aluminium cores that I had made at Xometry, and then they've got a bearing in each one, so there's about 200 bearings between the three wheels, and a 4mm axle. This is Polymax PLA, which is one of the strongest PLAs, but there is an aluminium core supporting the axle ends. So most of the design was on these wheels. The rest of it's pretty much half the two-ball bike, although the mounts are slightly different. And the electronics control box, and the rest was a copy and paste pretty much. And the twist grips, which help you balance by setting the angle you balance at slightly more or less so that you can get some more acceleration or stop suddenly. And lots of these parts are printed with a 1.2mm nozzle on Lolspot printers. And I've got 10 printers, and so it's only a few days printing.
Can I ask actually, did you design around the ball or did you choose the ball after?
So the ball is a walking globe for circus acts to balance on that you can buy from all good juggling shops, about £300 in money. They come in two sizes, but that's one that would, basically I went like this, and then I measured with a tape measure. There's one that's 750mm, and there's one that's 600, and that seemed the right size. But I do need to get my mass over the middle of the ball on this one so I can balance without it just shooting off backwards. So I had to sort of consider where I put my legs, and at the moment my knees are resting pretty much on these spinning axles, so I need to get some knee pads or something. I have to lean to go basically, so leaning forward to go is quite difficult. To get right over this with my legs backwards, it's obviously quite hard to get balanced. All the batteries are in the front and everything.
Can we see the batteries?
Yeah, so batteries are 3 pairs of 6S LiPos, so they're in series pairs to give 12S, another 12S and another 12S. And all of those are in parallel to give me 50 volts. And all of that's combined with these bolts here. All the batteries come here with series adapters to these bolts. Then there's a 500 amp contactor and another 12 volt battery to turn it on from the e-stop. So we've got 50 volts at lots of lithium capacity. So there's going to be a part 2. At the moment I can't control yaw, so I can't control spinning, it just goes round uncontrollably. I think wind resistance is a thing as well, because I did test with a big board on a stick and it always goes around like this on that side or the other way, because the point of the ball touching the ground is so small. It's very, very light. So the plan is going to be a discussion about how to make it spin, but I think it's probably going to be fans blowing it round on forks out the front, like a Star Wars speeder bike with those control surfaces, and 2 fans to help lock the angle.
We had a bunch of big European companies, but we also had ones we don't see this side of the pond very often, like CookieCad, and I spoke to Melissa about all their filament.
Yeah, Yes, so we're known for our beautiful color combinations, and we started in PLA doing really unique colors that you really didn't see anywhere else, especially the shimmers and the gradients. And then we started moving on to more engineering filaments, so we added PETG, and now we have TPU, PLA, TPU, ABS, ASA. Yeah, so we have two softwares. One is a cookie cutter designer. You upload your line art and it creates the STL file that you can download and print. Because bakers don't want to sit there building files, they want to be able to make their cookies. And now we also have our CAD software, which is an easy to use CAD that is also powerful. So we're showing it off over here. And it works in 2D and 3D at the same time. You can kind of see the split screen. So
That's cool.
that's the 3D space and then the 2D space.
It's too complicated.
So this is the unicorn color. It goes from blue, purple to pink. We did this one first, one of our first gradients. It's still one of our top sellers, and we have it in every plastic as well as the co-extrusions. So that's really popular.
I also wanted to see what E3D have been doing because you may have seen the highlights from Formnext and their new Fuge technology. I spoke to Sam, who told me everything that has been happening.
Hi, I'm Sam with E3D, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Fuge. So Fuge is sort of like a ground-up approach to high flow, as in trying to get more volumetric throughput from the same length hot end, so like a drop-in replacement type thing. We have an existing one where it splits the filament into multiple channels and then reforms it, whereas this one doesn't work in that approach. We have a demo model on the sides. So this is trying to represent what happens to the filament when it goes through your nozzle. So as you can see, it comes in and then is sort of flattened and sort of squished down, and then it gets reformed back into the normal sort of like filament size at the end. And so why do we do that? So what you want to do when you're trying to do higher flow, you want to get heat into your filament as fast as possible, and you want to get heat to the center of your filament as fast as possible. The filament itself is not a good conductor of heat, and so what we've done here with a very thin section is we've reduced the distance to the center of the filament that the heat has to travel, so you can do that very efficiently. But also this shape has a lot of surface area to it, so there's just more area to get the heat into it directly, and then also a shorter distance that it has to travel to do that.
How different is this from like the CHT in terms of surface area?
Oh, that is a good question. I don't think I have numbers on how much it is. So I'm going to refrain from comment in case someone corrects me in the comments. Here we have a technology demonstrator printer, which is running Fuge.
You guys love that word.
We do love it, I know. This is, the melt zone is approximately 40 millimeters long, so it's not that big. Here we are running polysonic PLA at 230 degrees, so we're not over tempering it. And it's a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, but it's printing at 80 millimeters cubed a second, which is obviously rapid. So the motion speed is 875 millimeters a second for printing at 40,000 axels. Right. So it is moving.
And like with the CHT, like it's relatively easy to machine that because it's basically just holes that are going in. But with Fuge, how is that done?
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it is done. So we've got quite a good in-house machine shop with a very patient machinist that is currently machining them in two halves, which means that we can sort of like prototype them in-house. We have ways that we are planning on making them for production, which we're currently scaling up. But that's all I'm going to say on that. I'll leave it a little mystery. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay, what else have you got?
So moving down the line, we have some of our new hot ends. So we have the collaboration with Diamondback, which we have brought over to the H series. So that's the H2D, H2C, H2S, and also the P2S. There's a bit of a mouthful, but all of those ones. And so that's for like our super abrasion resistant type scenarios. We also have our Obsidian 500 coating, which is something that we've been developing for a while. So most people are familiar with Obsidian as a coating that we have, which is it's a DLC coating, which is super abrasion resistant, and then it also has some like non-stick properties to it. And that has been sort of like a staple for the past few years and has performed super well. The big limitation to it was the temperature. So it was limited to 300 degrees C, because essentially the carbon atoms start to decompose if you get too hot with it.
300, wow.
So you can get up to 300 with it, and then above that you risk, well, it's not exactly like 301, it's going to start falling apart, obviously. But we added a safety factor because we didn't want people pushing it too far. But then we did have a high temperature range, which is a chromium nitride based one, which was not quite as good as the wear resistance, but it could go to higher temperatures, but it also didn't have the non-stick. So we were like, what we want is to merge those two together. We want to keep all of the good wear performance and non-stick, but get it to a higher temperature. So work some magic with the coating, and so it's now a chromium nitride based coating instead, which is rated up to 500 degrees C. It actually has more wear resistance than Obsidian, and it maintains the sort of the non-stick properties as well. So we've kind of managed to sort of get the best of both worlds with that. We've been doing this in collaboration with a company called Batchworks out of London, and so they have sort of a print farm there, and they manufacture lots of parts for businesses essentially. This is a project we worked on that was trying to make a sustainable print farm. So it was focusing on the amount of embedded carbon going into the manufacturing of the parts as well as end of life. And so what we've ended up with is a primarily 3D printed printer, which obviously is awesome, and we're at a RepRap festival, so it's a perfect place. About to do a part ejection on this one.
Oh, part ejection.
Yeah. So we were very keen that we didn't want it to be 3D printed for the sake of 3D printed it. It actually had to be functional and have the mechanical properties we required. There is one machined component on there for holding the tool head onto the bracket, but the rest of it we have been able to get the performance required from this. And predominantly the stuff that we print are with big nozzles. So these are 1mm nozzle sizes, so big thick layers. But in terms of the speed at which you can print with, these machines can go up to 0.5 meter a second into an AK axle, so they do move. They're not for show. They are nice and functional. And the bottom body's pretty cool because this is actually it's a single wall print, so it's completely hollow, and it's essentially with the use of ribs and various structures like that. That's where you get your strength from it. Okay. But what it means is, if we're trying to scale, we want to be able to manufacture these quickly, and so you take the print time for this in traditional methods would be a few days down to 4.5 hours, 5 hours. So it means that we can scale very quickly.
That is impressive.
But then the top piece, we needed a bit more fine detail resolution. And so that's printed with a smaller nozzle so that we can get those features in that we need.
Good for fuzzy skin?
So the top bit is glass fiber, which is why it has that little effect. Yeah.
Is that, which filament did you use for that?
So it's an ABS glass fiber. The entire machine's printed in the same. It's different colours, but the same one.
So that we can choose.
I think some of this was done with the bamboo, but it doesn't necessarily need to be with a specific brand. But that's the filament that was used for these ones.
Looks nice.
Yeah. And then other things that we've got going on in there, we developed a strain gauge hot end from it.
Okay.
So we have our piezo currently for nozzle contact probing. But with this scenario, we wanted to be able to get a little bit more data back from what's going on. And with that, you can analyze the tap a little bit more detail. So the printer can know if it's homed correctly or not. So similar with what you've seen on other printers, where they can detect if there's filament on the nozzle.
Yep.
We wanted to be able to do that, and for that we needed to move to the strain gauge.
Next, I spoke to the guys at Prusa and everyone's favorite positron co-creator / Prusa rep, Nomad.
Hi, my name is Anthony, otherwise known as Nomad. I am from Positron, as the community would know me, but currently I am from Printed Solid as well as Prusa 3D as the technical field and community specialist.
Tell us about Positron, for those of us who don't know.
Positron is my open source project that I started with Relions, where we made a upside down 3D printer that folds and fits into a filament box.
And I do believe this is a new update coming.
Yeah, we're currently working on version 3.3, which will add a auto bed leveling toolhead with a strain gauge in the actual nozzle itself to allow us to do both nozzle probing as well as hopefully dynamic flow control and everything else the strain gauge allows us to do. So I've been working at Printed Solid for a little over a year now, out in their R&D department. But I really enjoy going to shows, and Printed Solid recognized that I have a knack for this. So they moved me up to technical field and community specialist as a kind of hybrid role between Printed Solid and Prusa 3D. So my role now is to not only be a technical expert on the machines themselves, so when we go to shows, help set them up and do stuff like that, but also work with the community. You'll see me often on the Reddit and other community aspects like the Discord. And once we start doing live streams again, I'm going to be part of that as well to just reestablish a really good connection between the community and Prusa and Printed Solid, and just we hear the community every day, and we want to make sure that the community feels heard.
What is the most interesting thing that you think?
So admittedly, I am a bit biased. Give me 1 second here. So we recently, a year or so ago, we released our tungsten filament, which is what this is.
Okay.
And for those that are familiar, yes, this is a demon core. But inside of it is our latest release, which is the Ultra Glow filament. And it is really, really glowy. Like, I wish we could show off just how bright this is.
You know what's the perfect dark chamber? Under the print bed in the printer.
Oh,
That's my idea.
I can't really reach around, but yes, this stuff can glow bright enough to light up an entire room.
Oh my god, that is amazing.
Yeah.
It goes for like 8 hours.
So yeah, it glows really brightly for a few minutes, and then it will slowly dip down to what like normal glow-in-the-dark filament will do, but it lasts at that rate for hours. It is incredible. And of course, yeah, we just had to go with that demon core motif because we thought it would be really funny to have a very glowing object inside the demon core.
That is so cool.
That's certainly one of my favorites here today.
So I want to ask you, out of all of the creators here that have come to SMRRF this year, who was your favorite and why?
That is such a difficult question to answer, but I'm going to give kudos to Grant from 3D Musketeers. Every year at these shows, Grant does these charity events. Last year it was pies to the face, where we raised a few $1,000s there. And this year it is the hot sauce challenge, which I did the entire gambit and had all the hot sauces. That was a lot of fun, and I'll be probably doing it again. But every year I do love coordinating with Grant and doing whatever chaos he has thought of to help raise money for the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation.
Awesome. Nomad, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, thank you.
Enjoy the weekend.
Woo!
Speaking of community members, we also spoke to Fulvio, creator of the most beautiful, colorful, and intricate prints I have ever seen.
Hi, my name is Fulvio, but I'm known in the 3D printing community as Fulv. As you can see from my logo, it's an abbreviation of my name pretty much. And I design 3D printing models for everyone to print at home with a loving 3D printer.
These are amazing. Okay, so why? I mean, first of all, they are so cool, so I understand why you make them, but how did you get involved in these specific kind of models in the first place?
Actually, the first idea was during COVID, when I was, my background is design engineering, so I always worked for other people, and I had a 3D printer at the time. And COVID, obviously, like everyone else, I was at home, and the 3D printer was sitting there doing nothing. And I looked at it and I thought, why don't I do something for fun? And so I designed my first simple model and then put it on the internet. People liked it, the comments kind of were all positive, kept me going. And then I designed another one and another one, another one. Initially in my spare time, but then a couple of years ago I made it into my full-time job.
Amazing. And like all of the filament is like it's so colorful. I love what you did with the lights, but just the filament on its own,
Yes.
stands out so well. Which filament did you use for this?
My filament of choice is Polymaker. They've been. I actually was using Polymaker filament before Polymaker itself noticed my work and decided to support my work going forward. So I always loved the filaments, but yes, they have such a variety of colors and textures, and every year there is something new coming out, and that excites me as a designer because at some time just a simple color can inspire you to design an entire model itself. So it's important.
I've also noticed you have a Snapmaker U1 here,
Yes.
which is printing.
Fantastic printer. I'm actually printing a model to show what this printer can do, which is obviously multicolor, super fast. It takes about 5 seconds to change color. In a second it's going to change color. You'll be able to see. Let me grab quickly a little figurine, which is the one that is printing right now, which I'm giving away to people, but they've been quite popular, so I ran out of them. But basically, this is what is printing.
Love it.
And is also a character of my latest model, which I called Fulv Railway, which is a little vintage tram, which is the one you see going around the tracks at the moment. And the little driver is this little man here. And the actual tram is powered, for people that want to motorize it, it's powered by Lego Motors. Power up or power function is compatible with both. Very, very simple. Couldn't be simpler.
I gotta ask, I'm asking everyone.
Yeah.
Out of all of the content creators that have come to SMRRF this year,
Yeah.
who's your favorite and why?
I find content creators like Hueforge very inspiring. I love Flexi Factory as well. I know he's not here as Murph, but I love his work, and I actually know he likes my work too because he has printed some of my model, which was very flattering when I first started. There's so many content creators out there, designer, and the great thing is each one has their own niche, and we all kind of find our space in the community to create our own original designs that people want to print at home. So instead of competing with each other, we actually inspire each other, and that's great, and that's what I love about the 3D printing community in general. So,
Fulvio, thank you so much for giving your time.
you're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We also saw things coming from over the horizon, like Muon 3D, who are debuting their new printer at SMRRF.
Hi there, I'm Harry Loud. This is the Muon 3D M1. We'll be launching this on Kickstarter in about 2 months. The whole idea of this printer is it is a completely portable printer that you can take anywhere, store anywhere, but with uncompromised performance. We're able to print at 20,000 millimeters per second acceleration, 600 millimeters a second speed, and we're able to get an incredibly good quality sub 10 minute, about 9 minutes and 30 second benchy out of this thing.
So the elephant in the room first. This is basically an upgraded version of the Positron.
Completely, but this is a ground up rebuild of the Positron. So we've taken the same design constraints that Kraylin used about 3 years ago to design the Positron, but we've started completely from new. And the whole idea of this printer is it's a printer that people can actually go and buy. Positron's really cool, don't get me wrong, but the kit's about £850. It's incredibly hard to build. And this you'll just be able to go and buy straight off the shelf. and it will work straight out the box as well, pre-assembled, no assembly required.
And you are still using Clipper firmware with this?
This is, but we're using a modified version of Clipper, which is much more friendly to beginner users and much more friendly to everyone, really. You don't have to set it up all yourself. Full over-the-air updates.
And actually, the interface, are you going to be using modified mainsail or fluid? Or?
Modified fluid is what we're using for the main interface, and we've customized it for our needs.
So everything basically here is built from the ground up. You're just taking the concept of positron and using totally custom components for this.
Every single part of this printer is completely custom, from our hot end components that we have, with a right angle filament path. As you can see, the filament comes in from the front here. Actually, it sits on the printer like that and comes out the top, all the way to our umbilical cord, where we have data, filament and air all in one connector. And exactly, we have a fan, just that little hole you see there, and that blows air through here, and that allows us to get incredibly high air speeds, which really gets some really nice cooling. So, for example, this is our 9-minute 30-second benching. Only the tiniest bit of
a little bit of a whole line, or that's the overhand.
There we go. We're finished here. And to remove, there you go. Simple as that. The bed is completely removed. This glass is one of our best innovations. I'm really proud of it. It is completely transparent, but it can heat up to 110 degrees Celsius, and it's not just glass, it's PEI coated. So we get the PEI coated glass.
I didn't know you could get transparent PEI coating.
You can't, it's taken us 2 years to develop it. Right? So you get the best of both worlds. You get the stickiness and you get perfect first layers. And we also have force probing in the nozzle, which means those first layers of the bed meshing is perfect every time, no Z-axis offset calibrations. And once this cools down a little bit, I should be able to pop it off. But we have to wait for it to cool down, and then the texture will pop it off for us. Fully custom case, built especially for this printer. It can technically fit into a filament spool box, but who wants to put a £1,000 machine in a filament spool box?
That's a good point.
So you just take, and it drops straight in here. You have your umbilical stored and your glass bed. Just closes up, and that's it. You have a full 3D printer capable of incredibly high speeds and a really reasonable build volume in a package like that. You can take anywhere with you. You can take it on a flight, take it in your car, take it on a train. In fact, I want to do some printing on a train.
And you have a little thing here. What's this?
We do. This is a 1 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It's modular, so it allows you to drop your 3D printer straight on top of it. You can take it with you anywhere you like. This will allow you to print. I've printed on top of hills even. But you can print PLA for 15 hours, PETG for 10 hours, ASA for 5 hours. It just drops on like that and locks in place. And now you have a real off-grid 3D printer. And this is great for people that live on barges, for example, need to print remotely in the field. But also if you live in a country where the power on your national grid is not very reliable. If you're printing off of mains power and then you have a big power cut, this just continues printing. You wouldn't even know that there was a power cut. So.
Next up on the creator bill is Zachary of Zachary 3D Prints, and I also asked him about who is standing out as a community member at SMRRF this year.
Well, there are several, because in some reasons, some are more informative and others are more creative. But yeah, of course, the 3D printing nerd is also one of my favorites.
He's right over there.
He's doing a nice interview with a beautiful printer. Yeah. So you should really check it out later on if the video is live. It's a crazy 3D printer that has an index. So the index Bondtech Toolchanger. But the weird thing is, it has a second tool head, like the Voron, no, the SV08. It's on the back. There are two independent tool heads going around. It's looking like a monstrosity. It's weird.
Shall we look at that? Let's go look at that. Okay,
yeah,
come on, let's
sure.
go look at it. Yeah.
So this is a printer sponsored by Duet. So I don't work for Duet, and it's a sort of an experiment really. It's a Voron Trident at the bottom, a pretty much standard Voron Trident, and then at the top it's got another gantry, a Voron 2.4, and 2 print heads which can independently print at the same time. And the idea of doing that is to speed up prints. It's not really for doing 2 prints at the same time, it's actually doing 1 print with 2 heads at the same time, so making them faster.
The big tool head at the back, which is connected to an MMU. This is a box turtle, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we have an index tool head,
Yeah,
which can dock and change.
yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah. And the vision is for the back tool head to also be indexed.
Also be indexed.
Yeah, and the dock, because the index dock elevates so that they can both share the same tools. And so potentially what will be able to happen is that while one index print head is printing, the other one can be getting ready to print, so that preheating and priming can be done in parallel to the previous print finishing, so it can get the tool changes down even faster than index.
This is all running on RepRap.
Yeah, so it's running on a Duet 6HC control board. And then there is a feature within RepRap firmware called multiple motion system, which allows you to run 2 G-code streams at the same time. So there's actually 2 control boards, but they're not independent. That control board, the 6HC, is controlling the Mini 5 Plus. Yeah, and it's just, with Duet you can link multiple control boards together, and really that control board is really there to give more stepper drivers, because there's a lot of stepper drivers needed for this.
We also saw Matt Denton of Mantis Robot's Prusa Spoolbot, which is adorable. And you know what else is shining out there? Relions 3D's awesome modular lamp.
Hey everyone, I'm Relions 3D and I make funny content and trying to do all that. So you can find me on Instagram and YouTube currently. Trying to expand it, but I'm neurodivergent, so doing too much social media at the same time overwhelms me, so I take it a little bit slower and building all that. So let's focus on the lamp first. A lot of people don't realize that I always give a trick of like, hey, want to see a cool trick? And then people become a little bit closer. And then I show them, how fast do you think I can make this lamp shorter? And most people are thinking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a whole day. No, it's literally 3 seconds. Because the poker pins connect the data and the power through, I can just disconnect it, up, and go. So it's a stackable segment that I can bring to events, and it builds up pretty fast. And that's what I love to do, making that small tinkering point of having fun with it, but making that wow, because I have so many people here like, wait, what? How are you doing this? And that's the fun part of being here and showing people, that smile of interaction, like, that is really cool.
What boards are you using to control it?
Currently it's the ESP32 and the Seed Studio version, but the Seed Studio version didn't have Wi-Fi, so that lamp didn't work. You can win the raffle, well, not for the video, but everyone physical, you can win this lamp in the raffle of Sanjay Mortimer Festival, because we are at Sanjay Mortimer Festival. For the foundation, we're collecting money, and we're doing all that. So I built my lamp for the raffle, which is really cool. Check it out at the other booth for the physical people. Sorry, camera, cannot help it. You're not here. Next year, come here next year. It's always fun.
Tell me about these wonderful marble.
Marble contraption. I started with, I wanted to use my leftover filament plastics, and each piece takes around 15 grams or less. And they're magnetized, so everything here clicks together, and I can just pull it apart. So I can click it and it stays. So I don't need a base point, I don't need clicky points. And now I extend it to an elevator that is also extendable, and a splitter point that actually goes left and right. And that just keeps going. Well, the big one has some mistakes and we're having fun with it. You need to be thinking about it, make the process, build it up from the ground up. This is 2 pads. With the splitter system in place and more elevator pieces, you can go to 9 pads, 16 pads. But then you need to build up 16 pads going up. I did a live stream, 3 hours, only half the scale of this one, and I was going mental because I lost track which pad was where. But it's a lot of fun to build. And I made the droppers, so let's go here. The dropping pieces are just inserted, so you can change it in any way you want. And they're multi-connectable. So you don't need separate parts for dropping system. They're click and play. And that's what I love to do. The magnets are in the inside, you can insert them and soon print in place. I hope to put it on printable soon, but I'm still fine-tuning, learning how to do everything because I want to give out a good product instead of a fast product and do something with it. The base pieces, I want to give them out free. The elevator and the splitter will be 5-10 euros. Hopefully, I still need to calculate the price and doing everything, so I'm a little bit slow on that part. This is my first time doing this and taking all those pieces. And also, the small lamp will also be ending on printables. I'm not sure about that price yet, so that's a lot of calculation and a whole build guide, making all the pieces and bits, working that out and having fun with it. I hope you enjoyed seeing that, and maybe see you next year on SMRRF or another event. Good luck.
Next up is Blayze from Robopad with their mobile phone controlled robot boards.
Blayze Tech, Blayze Tech Limited, and we're here to sell the Robopads, or just sort of generally show them to everybody.
Pray tell.
So if you've heard of combat robotics, here we've got a chassis with a little one of our chips in, so I'll get to that. But the problem with combat robotics is it can be quite expensive to get into. Buying a controller can sort of run you like 35, but honestly £60 if you want to get a decent controller. And then the internals can cost you again on top of that. So we really wanted to lower that barrier to entry in the same way that 3D printing has really lowered the barrier to just building the robot itself. In order to do that, we've developed the Robopad, which is a small chip that allows for connection over a mobile phone. So here, this is going to be a bit awkward because I'm driving it in portrait, but you got a little, you got 2 joysticks to drive the robot. And this means you obviously don't need a controller, so anybody can just sort of rock up and do it. But the question that I know everybody will be thinking is, this just has 2 sticks for 2 motors, whereas a lot of robots have different numbers of motors. Fortunately, if I just very smoothly jump over to the other controller I have accessible here, the entire control system, that UI that you saw on the phone, is driven by a node graph. So here we've actually added 3 sliders and an additional one on top of the 2 that you saw before. So if we jump over to the control robot and you see our little demo rig here, you've got the 2 sliders as you normally saw on the previous robots, but we've also got an extra one for a servo, which can just kick in and slide once you've gone past the safe zone. So this lets you build sort of any type of robot, and really we're seeing a lot of people using it in combat robotics, but here today we're running a workshop and we've got a lot of sort of STEM-based opportunities and little things for kids to build and drive their robots around the race.
Sounds awesome. Blayze, thank you so much.
And we also had the chance to speak to SMRRF veteran Adam from Vector 3D.
I'm here with Adam from Vector 3D. Adam, this
Hello.
is your 3rd SMRRF. How do you feel?
I feel absolutely great. I love being at SMRRF. It's a really good community event and there's a lot of fun and a lot of things shared and chat, and yeah, it's lovely.
So we talked last year and you had some really cool stuff for SMRRF 2024. Weird to say that.
Yep.
But what have you got this time?
So the first thing I'd like to talk about is this project here. So this is a DIY headphone amp and DAC. So your DAC part, your digital to analog converter, is all SMD components pre-soldered, and this is all through-hole components that you solder yourself. So this is kind of an educational platform, so learning about soldering, learning about PCBs, what they are, how they're made, how they're designed, and like the kind of functional group areas of the PCB and why it's laid out the way it is and that kind of stuff. So it's probably not necessarily for your expert in electronics to develop their industry knowledge, but for beginners, maybe young engineers looking to maybe study engineering, this is probably a really good start to get you kind of more interested in that kind of side of the platform. So the way this is going to work is we're on a crowd-funded platform called Crowd Supply. Now, you may have heard of crowdfunding has quite a bit of a risk. things like Kickstarter don't necessarily have the best reputation, but for a small creator like me, having a project crowdfunded is actually really useful. The difference with crowd supply is that they kind of vet and approve every single project that goes on their platform. So it means less risk for me and less risk for you. Their success rate of projects, I think off the top of my head, is around 90%. So hopefully you've got some confidence in me and some confidence in the historic reputation of the platform to deliver a project like this. They are owned by Mouser Electronics as well, so if an electronics company can't help me deliver an electronics product, yeah, I think that's probably going to be going wrong. But I think we'll manage, we're doing just fine. I've got some experience in that supply and distribution already, so I'm very confident that we'll manage. So you can find about this on Crowd Supply. Either you can follow the QR code that we have on the sign here, or just Google AD5 Crowd Supply.
Tell me about these.
So this is our new, well, upcoming heat set insert range, VLMP. One of the things that I maybe wasn't so strong about our previous designs was that the fact that it was not really very modular at all. The design that we created was the design that people purchased and assembled, and the one thing was the one thing you got. With this, it's more of a mix and match system, where there'll be lots of different modules and a configurator tool. So you can select, say you have a 9mm rail, a 2020 extrusion, and a pine sill, plus whatever other configuration options you like. And the configurator tool will spit out all the STLs you need and some PDF instructions to help you assemble it. So by doing it this way, we'll be able to supply both as a digital kit to help you self-source your own parts, which means in different countries that have different supply chains, you can access things close to you that make sense for you to purchase. And for our international or business customers, we can put together a fairly comprehensive kit at varying levels of cost and performance that meet varying levels of demands, as well with varying levels of requirements, again based on supply chain and availability. We don't have any pricing for these yet. They'll be priced appropriately when we know exactly what parts are going to be available. But the digital supply and configurator will be probably somewhere in the £5 to £10 range, with obviously built kits being significantly more. We're looking for around November release date, so keep an eye out for these later in the year. So as part of being a creator in the YouTube space and having contacts all over the place, I've been in a really valuable position to be able to help other US companies bring their products to the UK. So chief among those is of course CocoaPress 2, which is the quite famous now chocolate printer. You can see some of the nice treats we've been printing at the show, some nice delicious infill samples. So you can now get CocoaPress 2 directly from Vector 3D in the UK, and we supply to, of course, all of the UK, as well as most areas of the EU. The other companies we resupply at the moment are the Ajax TD1S, CookieCad, as well as CNC Kitchen, although we don't have their stuff here at the show, simply because they're very easy and small to ship. Yeah, the other thing I'd like to mention is in 5 or 6 weeks' time, depending on when the video goes out, I'm doing a half marathon for Cancer Research UK. So this is a 21-kilometer run, probably going to take me somewhere around 2.5 hours. So if you appreciate the effort and would like to support Cancer Research UK, you can do so via the link down below.
Obviously from there, we just had to see the CocoaPress in action.
All right, the CocoaPress is a 3D printer that prints chocolate. Fully edible, fully safe to eat, and delicious.
It looks very familiar.
That's right. It's a Voron at heart, but it's been through a lot of evolution since then. So you'll see that it's got this large assembly here that's full of chocolate. It's actually got this inside of it that's stainless steel and completely food safe, dishwasher cleanable. You put your chocolate in there, you put it in there, it heats it up, and you print just like a normal printer.
Do people have to buy chocolate from you, or can they get chocolate from like a shop and use that?
Well, we are big fans of not being locked in by a vendor. So you can buy chocolate from us that we guarantee is going to work beautifully. But we highly encourage people to explore other materials, other chocolates. We've had customers put cheese through this machine, and it actually works.
Does it come as a kit, or can you get it assembled?
It is a kit. You can get it as a kit. We do have a fully assembled version, but it's fairly expensive because we're a tiny team and we have to build them ourselves. But you can get a kit, and here in the UK, you can get it through Vector 3D.
These are the ready-to-eat ones.
Yeah, and the fun thing about this is a good example of what you can do with this machine. Notice how the amount of infill here is extremely different. So you get a different mouthfeel when you throw that in your mouth because of the density of the chocolate, just like an Aero bar or something like that. And you can even make chocolate that has a different experience as you go through the bar. It could get more dense or less dense from one end to the other. You can have different experiences.
How much does this retail at?
Here in the UK, it's about £1,200, although there is a special here at the event. Of course, this video is not for people at the event, but there's a special at the event through Vector 3D where you can get 5% off.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Check us out at cocopress.com.
From beautiful, delicious chocolate to just beautiful 3D prints with Steve from Hueforge.
So Hueforge is software that lets you blend thin layers of filament to make multicolor images with not that many colors of filament and very little waste. That's the big promise of Hueforge. Use the fact that your filament isn't solid colored and let those colors show through. So the big change from then is we added plugins, and one of the big plugins we added is FlatForge, which is a paid plugin, and it does change that rule. You now have multiple swaps per layer, and you need and more waste, but it allows you to integrate your Hueforges into other models. And it's a really easy post process. You just do your Hueforge as usual, and then you run FlatForge on it, and it does all the mesh changes that need to be made in order for you to be able to print them flat, face down, face up, in a model on their own, as much as you want.
Do you have an example here?
Yeah, sure. I have a couple. This piece also shows that you can do double-sided now because it's flat. And then the chessboard down here is also FlatForged. This is done in pieces. I have one done all together, but it was very much harder on the slicer and took longer to print. So I recommend doing it in parts. And then here's an example, a very simple example of integrating it into a model. So putting it on these glasses, which is something you can't do if it's textured. It has to be able to be flat. There's also a free plugin called Hueforge that lets you do things like this very easily, where you can it'll cut it up into pieces for you and even put a little bevel on the edges to help them marry together a little bit better. You tell it what your bed size is, how big you're willing for it to be, and then it goes and cuts it up for you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's not forget why Smurf exists. We're talking to Teula from the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation to hear what's happened at the foundation over the last year.
The main thing that's happened is we are growing, so the number of stars that we have supported, the stars are our beneficiaries that we support. That number's grown, so in our initial outlay we had 2 stars, then last year we did 20, and then we're now up to 84 stars that we've supported. So I'm really pleased about that. And the other main thing that we've done is we've started tracking the impact that we're having on these young people. So I've sent out a questionnaire to them recently to say, I used a Likert scale. So how did you feel 1 out of 5 before you had your support? And then how did you feel after that support? And we've seen some really interesting results. I think the first thing to note is that 100% of our stars said that SMS had a positive impact on their lives, which is just what we want to hear. But the main areas that we've seen are growth in confidence, growth in direction of where these young people are going to take their lives. So both those things were off the charts with improvement as a result of the questionnaire. If you want support from the SMF, if you're a young neurodivergent person that's really fascinated about STEM subjects, again, head to our website. You can apply via the website, or just drop the foundation an email, and really we tend to set up a phone call with you initially, guide you through that application process so that you know what you can apply for, and that's how support kicks off basically.
And out of everything that you've seen so far this weekend at SMRRF, what has been your most favorite?
My absolute hands down highlight has been when we gathered all the stars together in a room with Sharmila, who is Sanjay's mummy. And she shared stories of who Sanjay was, and the stars shared stories of their struggles and their emotional journey that they've been on. And it was just a wonderful thing to see. And I think we're really building a community of people that are supporting each other now. and helping them recognize that it's okay to be different. That difference is their superpower, and it's just a wonderful thing to witness.
Teula, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wild Nomad has appeared.
We also got a quick word from Sam Prentice about how he's been finding Smurf.
So Smurf this year has been particularly special. Again, this was technically my 4th Smurf. We did the garden party, then we did one in Oxford, and this is the 2nd time in Manchester. It's fairly unique because normally I'm in the States or I'm somewhere else in the world, so actually coming home and being here for any amount of time has been unique and very special. Manchester, of course, is an amazing city, but this particular Smurf has been obviously the best one ever. We always, I guess, strive to be the very best and be better than the last one, but for me it's been really good, especially with the building. We did the deaf races, we had a massive crowd for that. Still small amounts of deaf races in the UK because obviously it's not pitched to that kind of audience, but ultimately very, very good. And I've got to be honest, an amazing turnout of people. I think they had 800 people plus on the first day. I don't know what it's been on the second day, Sunday, which again, the reason we're filming today, of course, is because we're able to today, because you would have got nowhere yesterday and you wouldn't have been able to do any interviews. And I've been trying to do some interviews today, and it's been easy and fluid and very nice. So yeah, Sanjay Mortimer RepRap Festival 2026 has been amazing.
Okay, out of everyone, out of all of the content creators here that you've seen at Smurf this year, who is the most interesting and why?
Oh, wow. I mean, obviously, we always have big love for Joel Telling, 3D Printing Nerd. He's a very special individual. But it's a difficult one, isn't it? There's so many to choose from here, and they're all really genuine people as well. Oh my God, that's really put me on the...
Yours is the reaction that everyone has had, by the way.
Yeah. You know, Grant 3D Musketeer, and I'll tell you for why. That man goes the extra mile. He does clash with a lot of people. He's not everyone's, you know, Marmite or cup of tea, depending on where you're from. But certainly for this particular charity, and because of his close connection to the Sanjay Mortimer RepRap Festival, he has been streaming the entire time. He's eating hot sauce. He is doing probably more than any of us, and you know, certainly him. So fair play to him. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Great, Sam. Thanks so much.
Cool. No problem at all.
Big Tree Tech were also there with their Vivid MMU and Panda Breath add-on, and as much as I love new products, I just can't say no to the allure of genuine creativity.
It's a fucking table. Yep. It's a Doug.
I'm Doug, I go by DreamsVoid on the internet. Before you will see 3D printed 3D printers made from a 3D printing specific construction toy called Printablock. Printablock, as I just said, is a construction toy made by Joe Larson, who goes by the 3D printing professor on social media such as YouTube or Twitter and so on. He created Printablock and released it under a Creative Commons license and said to the world, have fun. I would like to believe for the last 4 years that I have done exactly that. I've taken his blocks and I've made, well, these 3D printers that, for the most part, work, surprisingly enough. For the SMF this year, I have had assistance from Big Tree Tech, E3D, and, well, 3D Jake and Prusa. And I've made a printer that's gone into the charity auction to raise money for the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation. And again, along the line of encouraging people to have fun, I also have done a giant pile of Printablock that is the stem pile, around 20-ish kilos from Sunlu and Prusa. And I've just been saying to people, you know, release your inner child, have fun with it, build something cool. I just want to see it before you take it home because it's yours.
Tell me about what everything is resting on.
Oh yeah, you know, just a table made out of Printablock. No glue, just held together with hopes and dreams and friction. And there you go. You know, just 1,000 hours on that Creality K1 that 3D Jake helped me get. And the Construct C1.
And the Construct C1?
Construct 3D C1 is down there too.
I also asked Taylor, aka Canuck Creator, about his take on Smurf and that very difficult question of who is standing out this year.
What I love about Smurf is actually this year, it is in March. The previous two Smurfs, they were in December, and jolly old England does not have jolly old weather. So I actually saw the sun this time. It was for a couple minutes earlier today, but the sun did come out, and it's always good when it comes out because Smurf is an awesome event. I love it out here. You get to meet folks you don't normally see at the events in the United States, so it's always fun to come out, meet new folks, meet people you don't see often, and have a great time.
Okay, and out of everyone here, all the content creators here at Smurf this year, who is the most interesting to you and why?
Most interesting. You know what? I'm going to go with the trick answer because it's somebody I didn't expect. DIY Perks was here. They are not a 3D printing content creator. They do blinding lights and cool, compact, water-cooled PCs and desks. And they do cool stuff. Go check them out on YouTube if you haven't. But I didn't expect to see him here because it's a 3D printing event. It doesn't do 3D printing. But we're going to go with that. That's my answer.
Lastly, I spoke to Rob, who was showcasing his version of the MaxMax Toolchanger.
Hi, I'm Rob. This is my Voron Zero. It's a slightly modified Voron Zero. It's deeper than a regular Voron Zero. I've got these 300mm extrusions on there, and that is because I want to use a MaxMax Toolchanger. So this is a Voron Zero Toolchanger using the MaxMax system developed by Zoroncho. He released it last year, and this is my ground-up Voron Zero build to support MaxMax. So you can put MaxMax in your V0 that you've already got, but you lose a lot of build volume. By extending it like this, I've got the docks at the front, I keep most of the build volume. I've got space at the bottom here now for a big power supply, and everything just kind of follows on nicely for the MaxMax system. So it's an open source tool changer that Zoroncho released using magnets and the kinematic coupling. So you can see it's changing quite smoothly and very low hardware. So low cost of entry, low time to build as well. You can put it together in a weekend if you've got a bed dropper, basically a Core XY bed dropper. So I was here in the beta last year with it on my Trident, and then this year we've done my first Voron Zero build. And it's also got this cool little nudge probe in here to do nozzle alignment. It's a very nice system that you can build with hardly any hardware. Lets you do a kind of a nudge from any direction so you can find the location of your second tool head. Very nice solution for nozzle alignment, which is a problem that you face with the tool head. It uses a Maxwell coupling where we've got the heads of these screws engaged with the bodies of those other screws. Just forms an electrical connection, so it works like a regular end stop but in 3 dimensions, which is kind of neat. And the same magnets that hold this on are holding my tool heads onto the carriages, which is one of the beauties of this MaxMax system. It's purely magnetic force that holds my tool heads on. As you can see, I'm able to print at a decent speed with those magnets, and again a Maxwell coupling giving me that alignment on the tool heads. So thanks to Zoroncho for the beautiful designs, and this is my own work to try and build a Voron Zero designed from the ground up to support MaxMax. So I'm hoping to release that on GitHub very shortly.
Smurf was an incredible experience, and I truly hope next year we'll be seeing more of you there because, like I said, we so rarely get to see everyone together, talking, sharing ideas, plans, and news about the world of 3D printing that we love so much. From us to everyone we saw and spoke to at Smurf, we absolutely adore you, and we can't wait to see you next year for another crazy weekend of shenanigans.
I made the joke of like doing a running jump onto it.
Yeah, you've done that before. Look at this.
Oh no, you're killing it. No, stop.
Do you not need to label those bits up?
Oh, I can hear its soul being released. No, he looks like he's really enjoying this. Oh, the horror.